Namo Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriet Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Das Goswami, Volume 6, Chapter 53, Krishna's Great Soldier. So Srila Prabhupada has reached London Temple, Bhaktivedanta Manor, and devotees are there. They were surprised, shocked to see him so thin. And but they were happy, Prabhupada is with them, and Kirtan was going on, and Prabhupada would come down and take darshan and give his darshan to the devotees. So each morning the Kirtan would build enthusiastically. Tamal Krishna asked the devotees not sing the Guru Puja song because it created too much emotion for Srila Prabhupada. So they chanted the Panchatattva mantra and then Hare Krishna. After half an hour, the singing and chanting would be fervent, and Srila Prabhupada would sometimes tap his thumbs together. Just this slightest movement of his body increased the intensity of the Kirtan. Then, with the raising of one finger, Srila Prabhupada set the whole room of hundreds of devotees into jumping ecstasy. The devotees felt that by chanting Hare Krishna and dancing, they were somehow singing and praying for Srila Prabhupada's good health and continued life. Srila Prabhupada would sit unmoving, but the devotees knew his desires, and many of them continued jumping several feet into the air, almost touching the chandeliers. After a wild transcendental hour of kirtan, Srila Prabhupada would go upstairs again, carried over the heads of the devotees on the palanquin. So yes, that time the kirtan was really, really wild, we can say. Devotees would be jumping several feet into the air. In fact, when I also started coming to ISKCON, I started in Dallas, and there was one Bakreshwar Pandit Prabhupada disciple who would lead Kirtan, and he would have two of his favorite Mridanga prayers, Urjasvat Prabhu and Chaitanya Prabhu. They all were Prabhupada disciples. And the Kirtan he would lead, I mean, the whole hall would be just jumping on their feet. And his standard, we can say, standard was, if I don't see your kurta full of sweat, means you haven't danced. The kirtan will go on. Your kurta must be full of sweat. Then he would stop. But yes, that was the standard of kirtan that time. And it wasn't like somebody would sit down on harmonium and no. He would be dancing with us and everybody would be just jumping up and down. When the devotees in London heard that Srila Prabhupada was getting many invitations to go to America, they began to worry. They were thinking this would be the last time they would see him, and they wanted to keep him with them forever. If they could distribute an incredible number of books, then maybe he would live longer and stay longer at Bhaktivedanta Manor. They were already feeling privileged that Srila Prabhupada had chosen their temple out of all others. And as they spoke among themselves, they concluded that Radha Landaneshwara and Radha Gokulananda must be Prabhupada's favorite deities. They realized that aside from chanting and serving, there was nothing they could do to help Srila Prabhupada and keep him with them. And this inability made them helpless. Despite their effort, everything was up to Krishna. Yes, that they realized everything is up to Krishna, although they were trying to do their best. Srila Prabhupada confided to his secretary that he was disturbed by thoughts of India and that he had no wish to go back. In India, he said, whatever project I made, the government has simply given me obstacles. I had to tax my brain so much. India, he said, had lost its culture. Now they think everyone is God, and they do not understand bhakti, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. From the members of parliament to the members of the street, everywhere there is suspicion that I have brought the CIA. Such a mistake they have made. So that suspicion was there, and some people still say yes, it is true that CIA has infiltrated through ISKCON in India. And in fact, I think after Prabhupada left, two CIA agents, they came in as brahmacharis and lived in a temple. I don't know which temple in America they were in. And lived in the temple for a while just to read the movements because they were suspecting that India has sent these people to America to spy, and Indians are thinking America has sent these brahmacharis to India for spying. So they wanted to study the lifestyle of these devotees and what do they do and what kind of activities they have. And devotees were brahmacharis were regular in their life, getting up early, attending Mangala Arti, and then chanting, and then doing book distribution, and then whatever evening Arti, and then very austere life actually they have. And after a month or so, these two CIA agents they admitted to the devotee that we are from CIA, we were here to test you. But then they said that your lifestyle is more difficult than ours. Your lifestyle is more austere, more difficult than ours. We cannot live this lifestyle. And they said there's nothing wrong, and they left. So, but in India, and also in India, there's this we can say famous or infamous video of Rajiv Dikshit is still going around, and sometimes people believe that, oh, ISKCON is an American organization and they're collecting money from India in the temples and sending the money to America. So no such truth. Every temple is autonomous. Every temple has to raise their funds and spend. There's no such thing as central funding in ISKCON. And these kinds of allegations are all they'll always be there. In fact, another thing, in Delhi only, when I was there was one terrorist. I think Hoji or Eliti, some one of those guys. He joined as brahmachari in a brahmachari ashram at ISKCON Delhi. And his point was he wanted to do Reiki of the temple and the devotees, and they wanted to do a blast over there. But after staying there, I don't know, he stayed there for maybe 3 months or something like that. And Indian agencies, they're also very smart, and they were keeping an eye on him actually. They knew he's there and they were keeping an eye on him to see who comes to meet him and whatever his activities were. So after a while, they arrested him. But while he was leaving, he told the temple devotees that I am this and I came for this purpose, but by living here and following the principles, my life has changed. And I did not give any information to my seniors to come and to do any blast over here because you guys are very pure. And and they took him away. So So the thing is, yes, the purity is there in Prabhupada's movement and in his teachings. And if we follow them properly, one can get pure enough to go back to the spiritual world. There's nothing lacking in Prabhupada's teachings or the movement. Of course, anything lacking is within us. We commit mistakes. But whatever Prabhupada has given is perfect. And now he is lamenting that in India, government is giving me so much trouble. And everywhere, whether it was Bombay or Mayapur, or Vrindavan, and later on also other temples, it it takes lots of effort to build a temple and to maintain and operate it afterwards. Since Srila Prabhupada had come to London, his emotions were much more noticeable than before. Where he would have checked his emotions before, he now did not or could not. He frequently cried in ecstasy because he was saturated with love for Krishna. At any moment, his tears might come while hearing a kirtan, seeing the deities, hearing of a devotee's service. The tears would pour down his cheeks, making his visage more beautiful. At other times, he would utter a long, deep hum, not out of physical pain, since he said he was quite all right, but out of his Krishna conscious emotions, the ecstasy of his love of God. So normally he would not show his tears or emotions when he was preaching, traveling and preaching. Because his point was people might mistake it or they might imitate it cheaply. He didn't want that. But now, last days of his life, he was showing his ecstasies. After a few days, Srila Prabhupada got a good report on the progress of his US residency. Balwanta had gone to Washington, D.C. and now phoned to say Srila Prabhupada would have no difficulty in getting his expired residency renewed. All the officials Balwanta had contacted were friendly and invited Srila Prabhupada to return. That was different time, 1977. Now it is so difficult to get residency or green card. And forget about citizenship. Tamal Krishna conveyed this while Srila Prabhupada sat on a mat, his frail body being massaged by Upendra. Instantly, tears welled up in Srila Prabhupada's eyes, and with a choked voice he said, America has been so good to me to give me money, men, everything. I have no designation that this is my country, but because they have given me so much facility, I cannot forget my obligation to them. I want to make them happy and through them the whole world. And that is really true. Of course, not America as a country, but Americans. They they really helped Prabhupada. Money, men, everything God, and that's where he started to begin with. And and anything done in America, the whole world still they look up to. I mean, of course, now the political situations have changed, but still technologically or economically, America is a leader, and the whole world looks up to them. And if everything is started in America, whole world wants to copy it. And Prabhupada had tremendous success in USA. Srila Prabhupada looked forward to traveling to America shortly after Janmashtami, which would fall on September 6, 2 weeks from the date of his arrival in England. I want to live a little longer, he said, to make everything more perfect. That was his desire. Will you do this by enthusing the devotees by staying with them, asked Tamal Krishna, or is there a specific program? A specific program, said Srila Prabhupada. I want to introduce Varnashram. At our Pennsylvania farm, the biggest problem of life is solved food. So this is something he wanted to introduce, Varnashram system in our society. And once I think he said that 50% of work is undone because he did not introduce Varnashram. So so let's see, maybe he will come back and do some more for us. Letters from Ghanshyam in Eastern Europe had brought Srila Prabhupada repeated pleasure. When Ghanshyam came to England, therefore, Tamal Krishna brought him before Srila Prabhupada. Calling him near, Prabhupada stroked his head. This is the parampara system, he said. My Guru Maharaj pushed me, I am pushing you, and you are pushing others. It's like a train. The following day, at Tamal Krishna's request, Ghanshyam came in and read his latest report, which was lengthy, to Srila Prabhupada. He explained some of the difficulties in his preaching and how he was getting around them. But Prabhupada's mood had changed, and he reminded his disciple that the credit was all due to Krishna. So, so all success credit is due to Krishna. Then Harikesh Swami, the GVC secretary for Northern and East Europe, arrived. He entered Prabhupada's room and offered prostrated obeisances. Srila Prabhupada, his eyes overflowing with tears, reached out and rubbed his disciple's head, and Harikesh also began to cry. Harikesh explained that he was setting up his own press for producing Srila Prabhupada's books in European languages. Very good, said Prabhupada. As a father likes to see his estate nicely managed, so I am like that. Get places and print books. Harikesh Maharaj had brought with him most of the book distributors from Germany, and he arranged that they meet privately with Srila Prabhupada. The men, most of whom had never been with Prabhupada, gathered in his room and sat in overwhelming appreciation of the movement. So men, most of whom who'd never been with Prabhupada, they were Prabhupada disciples, but they got initiated through letters, and they'd never been with Prabhupada, never seen their guru, and dedicated their life for the service of Prabhupada. Can we imagine that? Just by his words and by seeing his devotees, his disciples. And now they are in front of Prabhupada, meeting him for the first time. Srila Prabhupada quoted, Jara Dekhatarakaha Krishna Upadesh, and then asked, so what's this Krishna Upadesh? At first no one replied, but then one of the boys spoke and said, one should preach everywhere. No, said Srila Prabhupada. What is Krishna Upadesh? Then again there was silence. This time around, another boy recited, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Srila Prabhupada accepted that and spoke for a few minutes about surrender to Krishna. Thinking it an opportune moment, Tamal Krishna brought out a package of color photographs just arrived from Los Angeles. It was complete story in pictures of the recent Los Angeles Rath Yatra. The pictures were brightly colored, 8 by 10-inch enlargements, and as Srila Prabhupada saw one after another and heard the descriptions from his secretary, he began to make long, low humming sounds, and tears came to his eyes. And so much of appreciation for what his devotees were doing, what the disciples were doing, and the preaching going on all over the world. And this thing nobody has done in the past. Nobody. What Prabhupada did. And na bhuto na bhavishyati. I don't think in the future also anybody can do it. And preaching going on all over the world, books being distributed in languages. I mean, now I think 80 different languages the book's been translated into. Who? Nobody has ever done that. And millions of books are getting distributed. And temples and festivals all over Earlier that morning, as soon as he had awakened, Srila Prabhupada had begun spontaneously speaking about the Rath Yatra he had performed as a child in Calcutta. And now he was seeing the pictures of a grand procession and festival conducted by his disciples. Seeing the photo of the chariots with a large crowd following, Srila Prabhupada raised his eyebrows and said, "We have never seen such carts, large carts, three of them actually." Another photo showed long lines of people waiting to see the changing bodies exhibit, a diorama depicting the transmigration of the soul. "I told you this would happen," Prabhupada exclaimed. "I am very much glad to see this." Srila Prabhupada remained so affected by seeing the Rath Yatra pictures that he wouldn't take his usual massage. "Not now," he said in a choked voice, and he sat meditatively, silent for 2 hours. Wow. I mean, how much he must be, maybe speaking with Lord Jagannath himself, looking at the pictures of Rath Yatra, and maybe giving a report to his uh, gurus. And the changing body exhibit. And now in America, there are so many Rath Yatras, they call it Festival of India, and the Rath Yatra goes on. And the Festival of India, there is a devotee in Los Angeles, so he has his own truck, big truck, 18-wheeler, and he has created um, different dioramas and folding exhibits. So he packs them all in his truck with the tents, and he drives from one Rath Yatra to another. Now, whenever the season starts, summertime is when they all start. And he goes from one Rath Yatra to another, set up the exhibits, and then the devotees are there to preach on different exhibits to the people who come. So the idea is not that every temple has to create their own. So they just call him, pay him some money, whatever he charges. And then he comes, he sets up everything, and again puts them, when the Rath Yatra festival is over, put them back together, put them in the truck, and then again goes to another Rath Yatra. So this changing body exhibit is there, and other scientific explanations are there, and then the devotees are in different pandals and preaching to whoever comes. It's just different festival here, Rath Yatra time. In India, it is different. In India, we just have shops to sell different items, and the kirtan is going on. Jagannathji sits whenever he reaches another place, and lots of prasadam, but hardly any preaching goes on. Depends on the crowd. But here in America, it's completely different. On Janmashtami Day, when I say here in America, of course, I'm not in America, but talking about America. On Janmashtami Day, Srila Prabhupada rode in a rented Rolls Royce to the temple at Berry Place in downtown London to see their lordships, Sri Sri Radha Landanishwara. Entering the building in a palanquin, Prabhupada came before Radha Landanishwara and slowly removed his sunglasses, his eyes flooding with tears, while around him devotees chanted his name and the names of Radha and Krishna. On the way back to the manor, Tamal Krishna recited to Srila Prabhupada the many pastimes of Prabhupada's preaching days in London. He was reminding him. And this place, Berry Place in downtown London, so I don't know what had happened because devotees had moved the deities to Soho Street. But lately, I mean, I think maybe 3, 4 months back, or maybe less, devotees, they bought this place, very place, where Prabhupada started the movement in London. They bought this place and they're going to make a temple or a preaching place out there. The next day was Vyas Puja. Srila Prabhupada's 82nd birthday, so it's a day after Janmashtami. Again, upon walking, he recalled his childhood and how an uncle had called him Nandulal. Because he was born on the day Nanda Maharaj gave presents to the Brahmins, the day after Krishna's birthday. Srila Prabhupada went down to the temple and after a fully exultant kirtan by hundreds of devotees, he accepted without tasting a 3-tier, 5-foot long birthday cake. He noticed that the devotees had only used 81 candles due to counting age by the Western method, so another candle was added. At Srila Prabhupada's request, Tamal Krishna stood and spoke. So spoke on behalf of Prabhupada. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Thank you, Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna.